The scent of vanilla and freshly baked bread wafted through the tiny bakery, curling into the air like a warm hug. It was Saturday afternoon, the busiest time of the week, and families filled the small space, laughing as children pressed their noses against the glass display to point out colorful cupcakes and cookies. Amid the cheerful chatter stood David, his posture tense, his rough hands gripping a thin, faded wallet that had seen better days. His daughter's 6th birthday was tonight, and he had saved every spare coin he could manage over the past few weeks to buy her dream cake, a pink unicorn design with rainbow frosting and her name, Lily, written across the top in shimmering white icing. He had promised her this cake. He had promised her a celebration, no matter how small. But now, as the clerk smiled and told him the total, his heart sank. The number she said was higher than he'd remembered. It had gone up since last week. His stomach twisted. Rent was due in 2 days, and his electric bill had already been extended once. He pulled out a few crumpled notes, counting them twice, then again, as if the amount might magically increase. The clerk's smile softened when she saw his hesitation. Behind him, the line grew longer, an impatient sigh escaped someone's lips. David swallowed hard, embarrassed. I'm sorry, he said finally, his voice low. Could we cancel the order, please? His throat tightened as he forced the words out. The clerk hesitated before nodding. Of course, sir. Maybe another time, she said kindly, though she could see the defeat in his eyes. David nodded, muttering a thank you before turning to leave. The bakery's brightness blurred as his vision shimmered with unshed tears. Outside, the cold air hit his face, stinging like guilt. He had imagined Lily's face lighting up when she saw the cake, the way she would have clapped her little hands in excitement. Now he'd have to tell her there wouldn't be one. Just some candles on store-bought muffins, maybe. But as he stepped out, unaware, someone was watching. Near the back of the bakery, a tall woman in a tailored navy blue suit had witnessed the entire scene. Her sharp eyes, usually focused on business figures and contracts, softened for the first time that day. Catherine Hale, CEO of Hale Enterprises, set down her coffee cup, a flicker of thought forming in her mind as she watched the struggling father disappear through the glass door. Catherine Hale lingered near the bakery counter long after the man had left, her manicured fingers tapping absently against her coffee cup. She couldn't shake the image of him, his slumped shoulders, the way his voice cracked when he said, "Cancel the order." It was the sound of a man who carried too much weight, the kind she knew all too well from her own father, who had once worked double shifts just to keep their lights on. The bakery clerk was wiping the counter when Catherine approached. Her sleek navy suit stood out among the pastel aprons and the hum of espresso machines. "Excuse me," Catherine said softly, her voice warm but firm. "That man who just left, the one who canceled his daughter's cake, how much was his order?" The young clerk blinked, startled. "Oh, she hesitated, glancing toward the door as if checking if she should say anything. Catherine offered a small, reassuring smile. "Please, I'm not here to pry. Well, it looked like something important." The clerk finally nodded. It was a custom cake. A unicorn one for a little girl named Lily. He said it was for her birthday tonight. Total was $85. Catherine exhaled quietly. For a man struggling, that must have felt like a mountain. Without another word, she reached into her purse and pulled out her platinum card. "Please don't cancel it," she said. "Finish it exactly as she wanted, and make it extra special if you can. I'll pay for everything." The clerk's eyes widened. "Oh, of course, ma'am." She swiped the card, still a little stunned. "Actually," Catherine added after a pause, "could you tell me where he lives? Or at least his phone number? I'll make sure it reaches them." The clerk hesitated again, caught between professionalism and compassion. I can't share his information, but he left his order receipt. His address should be on it." "That'll do," Catherine said, offering a warm smile. She handed the clerk a business card. "If he comes back, give him this and tell him it's from a friend who doesn't believe little girls should cry on their birthdays." Minutes later, Catherine was behind the wheel of her sleek black car, the city skyline gleaming in her rearview mirror. Usually, her mind would be racing with numbers, meetings, and deadlines. But not today. As she drove through the quieter neighborhoods, the streets grew narrower, the houses smaller and older. Children played barefoot on cracked sidewalks, their laughter echoing through the chilly air. Catherine slowed down, the cake box carefully placed on the seat beside her. For years, her world had revolved around mergers and profit margins, but in that moment, none of it seemed to matter. She thought about the man's face again, the quiet desperation that came not from laziness but from love, from wanting to give his child the world with nothing left to give. And for the first time in a long time, Catherine Hale, one of the most powerful CEOs in the city, felt something stir in her chest that money could never buy: empathy. She smiled softly to herself and whispered, "Let's make this birthday one she'll never forget." The sound of soft knocking echoed through the dimly lit apartment. David almost didn't hear it over the faint hum of the old refrigerator and Lily's giggles as she played with her worn-out dolls on the living room floor. He frowned, wiping his hands on a towel. He had just finished making her favorite dinner, macaroni with cheese and a few slices of sausage. It wasn't much, but it was what he could afford. When he opened the door, his breath caught. Standing there, framed by the flickering hallway light, was a woman he didn't recognize, elegant, poised, holding a large white cake box in her hands. The golden, Hale's Bakery, sticker gleamed in the corner. "Mr. Walker?" she asked politely, her voice calm but kind. "Yes," David said slowly, confusion knitting his brow. "Can I help you?" She smiled, her eyes softening. "Actually, I think I'm here to help you." She lifted the box slightly. "You forgot this." David blinked, his heart stuttering. What do you mean?" "I canceled that order." "I couldn't." Before he could finish, Lily ran up beside him, curious. "Daddy, who's that?" she asked, her bright blue eyes landing on the box. "Is that my cake?" Catherine knelt down, smiling warmly at the little girl. "It might be," she said softly. "Why don't you open it and see?" Lily's small hands reached eagerly for the lid. As it opened, her face lit up with pure wonder. The cake was perfect. Pink frosting swirled into clouds, a sparkling unicorn on top, and "Happy Birthday, Lily" written in neat white letters. David's throat tightened. I don't understand," he said, his voice trembling. "Why would you?" Catherine stood slowly, her tone gentle. "Because every child deserves to feel special on their birthday," she said. "And every parent deserves to see that smile." Tears burned in his eyes, but he quickly blinked them away, glancing down at Lily, who was now clapping her hands and bouncing with excitement. "Daddy, look, it's even got the stars like I asked for." He laughed, shakily, the sound raw with emotion. "Yeah, sweetheart, it's perfect." Catherine hesitated at the doorway, watching them. "I'm sorry if I overstepped," she said quietly. "I just couldn't walk away after seeing what happened." David swallowed hard, still stunned. "No, you didn't overstep. You gave her something I couldn't." For a moment, the two stood there in the soft glow of the living room light, the air thick with unspoken gratitude. Catherine felt something in her chest, a warmth she hadn't known she'd missed. As she turned to leave, Lily called out, "Wait, will you come to my party?" Catherine paused, surprised. "Are you sure?" Lily nodded eagerly. "You brought my cake. You have to have a slice." David chuckled, wiping his eyes. "She's right," he said. It'd mean a lot. For the first time in years, Catherine Hale, CEO, billionaire, perfectionist, sat on a worn couch in a modest apartment, sharing laughter, paper plates, and birthday cake with a little girl and her father. As Lily leaned against her, smearing frosting on her sleeve, Catherine realized that in giving a stranger joy, she had found a piece of her own humanity again. And when she finally left that night, her heart felt lighter than it had in a long, long time. The next morning dawned with sunlight spilling through Catherine's penthouse windows, the city below already humming with the rhythm of Monday. She sat at her kitchen counter, sipping black coffee and scrolling through her phone, her schedule packed with back-to-back meetings, investor calls, and strategy reviews. Everything about her life was perfectly planned, except for what she saw next. Her inbox was flooded, dozens of notifications, mentions, tags. Someone had posted a picture from the bakery's social media page. CEO Catherine Hale delivers a cancelled birthday cake to a struggling father and his daughter. Humanity isn't lost after all. The photo showed her standing at David's door, smiling as Lily hugged the cake box. Catherine froze, the coffee cup halfway to her lips. Comments were pouring in by the thousands. Some praised her kindness, others called her the CEO with a heart. Her PR team had already emailed her, urging her to issue a statement. But Catherine just sat there, staring at the image. One simple act of compassion had somehow reached the entire city. When she arrived at Hale Enterprises later that morning, the office buzzed with an energy she hadn't felt in years. Employees she'd barely exchanged words with smiled at her, nodding respectfully. "Morning, Ms. Hale," one of them said with a grin. "Beautiful story, by the way." Catherine offered a polite smile but waved off any talk of it during her meeting. "No publicity statements," she told her assistant firmly. This wasn't a campaign. It was just being human. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, David was living a very different kind of morning. He'd woken up to dozens of messages too. Neighbors, old coworkers, even strangers reaching out after recognizing him from the viral photo. One message in particular caught his eye. It was from an email address ending with @haleenterprises.com. "Mr. Walker," it read, "we were deeply moved by your story. Ms. Hale would like to refer you to a catering opportunity with one of our company events next week. We believe your food deserves to be tasted." David reread the email 3 times, hardly believing it. His little side business, something he'd started to make ends meet, was about to have its biggest client yet. A week later, he stood in the grand ballroom of Hale Enterprises, serving appetizers and small dishes with Lily sitting proudly nearby, wearing a tiny chef's hat Catherine had gifted her. The CEO herself stopped by his table, smiling. "Looks like business is good," she teased gently. David laughed, his eyes bright. "Better than I ever dreamed. I don't even know how to thank you." "You already have," she said softly, glancing at Lily, who was busy drawing a picture of a unicorn on a napkin. "That smile is all the thanks I need." Months passed, and their lives intertwined in small, meaningful ways. Catherine became a quiet part of Lily's world, attending her next birthday, helping David grow his catering business, and finding comfort in the simplicity she had once traded for corporate glory. And every time she looked at that little girl's laughter, she was reminded of something priceless. Success wasn't about how high she climbed. It was about how much light she could bring into someone else's world. In the end, Catherine Hale, the woman who had everything, realized that a canceled cake had given her something far greater than fame or fortune. It had given her purpose.